Welcome to the Economist in Your Ear podcast. I want to kick off with a question that's, well, frankly, a bit unsettling today. We see these billionaire founders still gripping the reins of their companies, and AI researchers getting these nine-figure contracts. So are we actually watching the end of the corporation as we know it? As the main driver of capitalism, has the individual, the superstar, finally sort of overthrown the firm?
That really is the core tension, isn't it? Right at the heart of the modern economy. And the data, it's pretty staggering when you look at market concentration.
Oh, staggering.
Well, think about the magnificent 7 tech firms, just those 7. They make up something like 34% of the S&P 500's weight now. That's a huge chunk of value in just a handful of places.
And crucially, that value isn't just tied to the organization, is it? It's tied to specific people. We're not talking anonymous CEOs here.
Exactly. 4 of the 10 most valuable firms globally. Alphabet, Berkshire Hathaway, Meta, Oracle, still run by the people who built them, essentially.
So what does that look like, that kind of, founder control? How does it actually work for investors?
Well, it often means entrenched power, thanks to things like dual-class shares.
Right.
Take Meta. Mark Zuckerberg, I think, holds around 61% of the voting power. He doesn't own 61% of the stock, mind you, but the voting power.
So his vision dictates everything.
Pretty much. His will, his direction, it sets the course for this massive corporate machine. We've definitely entered an era you could call superstar capitalism. Technology, culture, it all elevates the founder, the genius, the star. They become the main commercial force.
Okay, let's dig into that superstar idea, because the most obvious sign right now is this crazy talent war. And AI seems to be ground zero for that.
Absolutely. The whole race for AI dominance is built on this idea, this belief that just a few individuals are, well, exponentially more valuable than anyone else.
And firms are paying for that belief, big time.
Oh, yeah. We've heard reports, Meta supposedly dangling 9-figure packages just to get top AI researchers. 9 figures. That's hundreds of millions of dollars, potentially, for one person over a few years. It's just mind-boggling. It really backs up what people like Sam Altman at OpenAI are saying, right?
Yeah, his line about a medium-sized handful of people making the real breakthroughs.
It feels like the ultimate winner-takes-all game.
And you see that winner-takes-most dynamic playing out in finance, too, especially, in sophisticated trading.
How so?
Well, these firms, they rely on a pretty small number of really smart people and massive computing power, not huge armies of staff.
Yeah, that Jane Street versus Goldman Sachs comparison really throws it into sharp relief, doesn't it?
It does. Jane Street, maybe 3,000 employees, made, $6.9 billion net profit in a recent quarter.
Okay.
Then you look at Goldman Sachs, a giant, 46,000 people. They managed $3.7 billion in the same period.
So what's the fundamental difference there? What are they actually selling? Well, Jane Street is selling, essentially, an algorithm's output. Alpha generated by code, designed by a small, elite team. Goldman is selling relationships, advice, compliance, just sheer human scale.
And the small team with the algorithm is just vastly more profitable per person.
Orders of magnitude, yeah. Which naturally leads to this intense fight for those individuals who can generate that alpha, especially in the hedge fund world.
Like Citadel and Millennium.
Exactly. Those multi-manager funds, they're constantly hunting for star portfolio managers. Aggressively.
And how does that work, compensation-wise?
It's interesting. They pursue these stars, they absorb these huge pay packages, sometimes 9 figures, and often charge those costs straight back to their investors.
Wow.
So the firm provides the scale, the infrastructure, the compliance umbrella, but it's the star manager who supposedly justifies the whole cost to the investor.
And this isn't just finance and tech, right? This breakout individual thing is hitting other areas, too.
Oh, absolutely. Look at law. The big law firms, partners at the top 10 U.S. firms are now like 40% more profitable than partners at the next 10 firms down.
And that's killing off the old way of paying people.
It's definitely speeding up the demise of what they used to call the socialistic compensation model.
Which was?
More seniority-based.
Yeah.
Everyone got paid roughly based on how long they'd been there, not necessarily how much business they brought in. That's collapsing because the superstars, the rainmakers bringing in the big fees, they want to capture the value they create.
Right. If you can scale your service easily, you capture more value yourself. Makes sense. We see that in media too, obviously.
Totally. Mass communication just makes that superstar premium even bigger. Look at Spotify data. The number of artists earning over $10 million a year. It's grown 3 times faster than the number earning over $100,000.
So the money is just concentrating at the very, very top.
Heavily tilted, yeah. towards the top 1%.
And it lets individual creators bypass the old institutions, like writers going to Substack.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Substack getting a valuation, almost double the Daily Telegraph newspaper. That ability to go direct, to bypass the gatekeepers, it's powerful.
Okay, so this story, the individual breaking free, becoming the dominant force, it's really compelling. But I guess the big question is the firm really being usurped? Or is it just changing shape to serve these stars?
That's the critical counterpoint, isn't it? Because I'm not sure these individuals could achieve this scale without the firm's framework.
Yeah, that lone genius narrative, it kind of glosses over the massive infrastructure needed, right? You can't cook up a huge AI model in your basement.
Not really, no. These superstars, they absolutely rely on organizational scale. Think about the compute power needed, the huge data sets, the regulatory hoops, distribution channels.
Stuff no single person can build or manage.
Exactly. It's a moat. And what's really interesting is how the big AI talent grabs are actually structured. They kind of acknowledge this dependence.
You mean these aren't just simple hires, they're more like complex deals?
Precisely. Like Microsoft and Inflection AI. It wasn't just hiring the CEO. They effectively took on the leadership, dozens of staff, through a $650 million arrangement.
So they got the talent, the IP, but structured it differently.
Right, often in ways that might avoid the usual M&A scrutiny. Google's done similar things, billion-dollar licensing deals with startups like Windsurf or Character.ai, while also hiring their key people.
So they're basically absorbing the team and the know-how, but maybe calling it a license. That sounds very much like the firm reconfiguring itself, not being replaced.
I think so. The star gets a huge payday, maybe some perceived freedom, but their knowledge, their team, it gets folded right back into the giant machine. The Googles, the Microsofts.
Yeah.
The organization absorbs the star, not the other way around.
Okay, let's talk risk then. If the individual is the source of all this value, shouldn't a company tightly controlled by one founder, like a Meta or maybe a Tesla, always trade at a premium?
You'd think so, maybe. But actually, the market often sees it differently. It tends to discount these heavily personalized firms because it's key person risk. There are studies, looking at unexpected CEO departures, sudden death, illness, and they generally find negative stock returns around those events. These dual-class shares, they lock in the founder, sure, but they also increase what finance folks call tail risk for everyone else.
Okay, tail risk. Break that down. What does that mean for, say, someone listening with a regular retirement account invested broadly in the market?
It means there's a higher chance, maybe small, but still higher, of a sudden really bad outcome. Because everything hinges on one person's judgment or health or even their public statements.
Right.
That volatility, that lack of sort of distributed decision-making means a higher probability of a nasty shock hitting your portfolio value. The market kind of prices in that fragility, the all eggs in one basket problem.
And speaking of constraints, this idea that star talent can just jump ship for the next 9-figure offer, that's not always true either, is it? Because of things like non-compete agreements.
Exactly. The non-compete battles, that's the firm fighting back, trying to regain leverage. This assumption of totally fluid job hopping.
Yeah.
It often bumps up against hard legal realities.
We saw the FTC try to ban them nationally.
Right. But a court in Texas put a stop to that federal ban pretty quickly.
And meanwhile, some states are going the other way, making them stronger.
Yeah, that's telling. While the federal ban stalled, states like Florida actually making non-competes easier to enforce. They even allow for 4-year non-competes in some cases.
4 years. So that legal structure can basically trap a star employee even if they're incredibly valuable.
It can. It really contradicts that narrative of guaranteed mobility for the superstars. The genius might be valuable, but they can also be legally contained.
And even in finance, where you'd think the knowledge the alpha just walks out the door with the person, firms fight hard to claim that knowledge belongs to them.
Oh, absolutely. That Jane Street versus Millennium dispute is a perfect example. Millennium hires 2 traders from Jane Street. Jane Street immediately sues.
Arguing what?
Arguing that the specific trading strategy those traders used was a trade secret, their trade secret. And they won, showing that this individual alpha isn't always legally portable. The firm uses its legal muscle to fence off the knowledge created using its systems.
Okay, so if the standard story of the Lone Star is missing some pieces, what else are we overlooking in this picture? What broader forces shape this?
Well, we often focus on the tech and the culture, right?
Yeah.
But policy is huge. Think about immigration rules, labor laws. They shape where these superstars can actually operate and scale.
How so?
Well, imagine if the U.S. tightens up on visas and gets tougher on non-competes, while maybe, say, hubs in Asia or the Gulf make it easier for top talent to move and work. The superstars will just cluster where the rules let them maximize their impact. Policy really sets the geography of the talent war.
And given the market concentration, we talked about that 34% of the S&P 500, the actions of these few superstar CEOs have ripple effects far beyond their own companies, don't they?
Yeah, huge public consequences. When you get shocks related to a celebrity CEO, think Mr. Musk, maybe Mr. Huang at NVIDIA, that volatility doesn't just stay within the company stock. It feeds directly into millions of retirement accounts through index funds.
So suddenly, ordinary households are kind of involuntary stakeholders in the dramas of these few powerful individuals.
Exactly. The stakes for the general public get way higher when so much market value rests on so few shoulders. Everyone with an index fund becomes a sort of unwilling governance watcher for these specific firms.
And these new ways of acquiring talent, the talent via deal structures, the big license plus team arrangements, they seem like a way to consolidate power without triggering the usual alarms.
They really do look like an end run around traditional antitrust, yeah. It's a way to restructure corporate control, gather up key talent and IP, but quietly without setting off the merger review process.
So regulators might need to start looking at those differently.
I think you'll see more scrutiny. Are these billion-dollar license plus team hires actually de facto acquisitions? Because they achieve much the same result, consolidating talent and market power in the hands of the biggest players.
Okay, so as we watch this play out, this pendulum swing between individual and institutional power, what are the key signals? What tells us which way things are heading?
I keep an eye on two main things. First, state-level non-compete enforcement, places like Florida, Texas. Are firms successfully using the courts to lock down talent? If yes, that's a big swing back towards firm power.
And second.
Second, watch the regulators. Do they start treating these huge acqui-hire-style licensing deals, the Google windsurf type things, as if they were mergers? If they start applying that kind of scrutiny, it signals a pushback against this quiet consolidation.
Right, so pulling it all together then, the age of the superstar, it's definitely real. They have more wealth, more fame, more direct influence than ever.
But they aren't really replacing the institutions. It seems more like they're leveraging them. Leveraging the massive capital, the computing power, the complex legal and compliance structures that are still, at the end of the day, shaped like firms.
So the individual is the lever, not the replacement engine.
I think that's a good way to put it. They're the highly effective leverage applied to the institution, not a substitute for it. The firm is still the engine of scale. The superstar is the incredibly potent, highly concentrated fuel. The real question going forward isn't if the firm survives, but who's actually got their hands on the throttle.
That's a really fascinating way to frame this huge shift we're seeing. Thanks for walking us through all that complexity. Thanks for listening. Follow us for daily insights into world affairs, and don't forget to like, comment, and share.